Curious about how to make croissants. So this morning we are gonna make croissants. The recipe that I'm gonna demo for y'all is actually probably one of the easiest recipes I've ever used to make croissants. It does take time. So the recipe says it takes total time about 5 hours. There's a lot of lag time to let your dough rest and relax while we're making this recipe. So we don't need a lot of ingredients when you make croissants, okay? We need 4 cups of flour. We need 4 teaspoons of yeast. We need 1/3 cup of sugar. And then you need 2 1/4 teaspoons of kosher salt. You can use regular salt too, but because I had kosher salt at home, went ahead and used that. And remember, kosher salt's the one that has the bigger crystals. Okay, we're gonna need 1 cup of milk. And then we're also gonna need 2½ sticks of butter. Croissants are it's not a healthy food, okay? There's a lot of butter and you're gonna taste a lot of the butter, okay? And then your butter's gonna stay in the fridge until you 100% need it because it needs to stay cold. This recipe has a lot of chill time as well as it has time to let it rise. So a croissant is a laminated pastry. So a laminated pastry just means it has layers in it. And that's what we're gonna build today is a layered pastry dough. Okay, I'm gonna show y'all how to do plain croissants. And then I also just had some chocolate. So we're also gonna do some pain au chocolat, which is croissants essentially stuffed with chocolate. Okay, so that's what we're gonna look at today. So for our first step in doing our croissants, get your mise en place together, which is what I did. I have all my ingredients measured and ready to go. And for this first step, you are going to need, for your equipment, just your measuring equipment and then a big bowl. You'll need a whisk to whisk all our dry ingredients together, and then just a spoon to mix everything else together, and then we'll grab some plastic wrap, and that's all you need for this first part of our recipe. Okay, so in my glass bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and add my 4 cups of flour. I'm gonna add my yeast, my sugar, and my salt. So this recipe is a little bit different than the ones that we've done with our yeast bread unit because we don't have to, because it's gonna take some time for this recipe, so we don't have to heat our milk or anything like that. Okay, so I mixed all of that together and we're good to go. Okay, move all this out of the way for right now. And then I'm gonna grab our butter. So you need 2½ sticks of butter. It's a lot of butter, okay? You also need to cut your butter into little 1/8 inch pieces. So usually when you make croissants, you make your dough, and then you make literally a block of butter that you fold the dough around, and that's how you laminate it. This is kind of like a cheat recipe, and you don't have to do that step. Okay, so this is 2½ sticks of butter. If you want to get fancy, you can get a little bit more of an expensive brand of butter. Like Kerrygold was on sale at Publix, so I grabbed that. So some of this butter, it's a little bit more of the fancy butter, but you can use whatever you have at home. It's fine. Okay, and so I'm just going to put all this butter and just make sure my pieces aren't sticking together around in my bowl. And yes, it's a lot of butter. Croissants are not a healthy recipe. They are delicious. Eat them in moderation. Okay, because they do have a lot of butter. All right, so we're so close to putting in all of our sticks, our chunks of butter here. And we're working quickly because we don't want the butter to melt. That's a big thing when making croissants. So you have those flaky layers, like when we do biscuits, is to make sure your butter is not melting. All right, so quickly, we're just gonna toss the butter with our flour mixture. And just toss it around until it's nice and coated with our flour. Okay, and that's it. You're not trying to rub the butter in or anything. We're not making pie dough. All right, and then our next step is to pour our milk, okay, in with everything else. And then we're just gonna start stirring it together until a stiff dough forms. And once our dough forms, then we are gonna wrap it up and put it in the fridge for an hour. If you have anything else going on with you today when you are doing croissants, you have plenty of extra spare time here to get that done. Okay, folding everything in. If you feel like it's not forming dough, you can add more milk. Like I feel like this 1 cup for me today is not quite gonna do it for me because it's not really forming my dough. I'm not trying to, I'm gonna grab just a little bit more milk to sprinkle it on. So it's not quite forming my dough, and that's okay. It just depends on the weather. It's really dry outside, so it's taking a second for our dough to form. So measure about another 1/2 cup. I'm not gonna pour all that in there. I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit more milk in here and see what happens. Like 1/4 cup. And then just start stirring that together. If you remember from one of our videos, croissants actually come from Austria, not France. The croissant that we know, that recipe originated in France in the early 1900s. So some fun facts there. Okay, so it's coming together a little bit better now, you can see. But I still feel like I need a little bit more milk just to form my dough. So my dough forms a solid mass. As you see, I'm using mostly my spoon. I'm trying not to work too much with my hands because I don't want to melt my butter. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to fold it together and just make sure it has enough liquid so when we roll it out later, it's good to go. Alright. There's still a little dry, so I'm gonna add the rest of my 1/2 cup of milk there, and that should be enough to get us a nice dough formed. So instead of just the 1 cup, I added another 1/2 cup, and yeah, this is looking much better. Okay, so now that my dough is formed into a nice solid mass, we're just gonna wrap it up and chill it for an hour. Okay. So now I'm gonna take my plastic wrap, a nice big piece. Okay, to make sure it is nice and covered. I'm gonna grab my bench scraper that I should have had out. Okay. Making space. This is a lot of dough. This recipe makes about a dozen croissants. And that's what we're aiming for. Oh, plastic got all bunched up. It happens. Try and fix it. There we go. And then if I need to grab more, I can. Which I think I'm gonna need another piece because it's a lot of dough. There we go. All right, now we should have enough. Okay, so you can see it's formed, okay, together. Just what we're looking for. I'm just gonna pat it down and I'll show y'all, you can see the big chunks of butter and that's what we're looking for. All right, right now, you can see all these big pieces of butter. That's what's gonna do our flaky layers. Now we're gonna wrap all this up and then we're gonna throw it in the fridge and let it relax for 1 hour. Just trying to shape it. All right, so there it is. And you can see all those butter chunks. That's what we're looking for. And I'll see y'all back in an hour. We're back. It's been an hour and it's rested in the fridge for an entire hour, okay? Let's just let it relax so we can actually work with it. Okay, so our next step when we're doing this, we're gonna roll this into a big rectangle and then we're gonna fold it up like a book. Then we're gonna turn it and we're gonna do that between 4 and 6 times. The reason why we are doing this is because it's laminating the dough. This is what's going to cause your croissants to actually have those flaky layers. Okay, so in order to get this done, you need your counter, a rolling pin, and a little bit extra flour. Okay, so we're going to lightly dust our counter surface, okay, with some flour. And then I'm going to unwrap my dough. Okay, and if it's a little sticky, you just kind of keep adding some flour, it's fine. Just gonna flour that just a little bit, turn it over. That out of the way. Okay. Okay, so our goal is to get this in the shape of a rectangle. Okay, keep going. Okay, we just want to make sure our butter and everything's being evenly distributed. You want to make sure whatever you're doing with this, okay, it's starting to stick a little bit underneath. Let's put some flour there. You want to make sure you don't melt your butter, so you kind of want to work a little bit quickly, okay, with this. Okay, I'm trying to make sure it's a nice even rectangle. Okay, and then I'm going to start folding this that way. Then I'm going to fold it this way. Okay, and then now I'm going to gently turn it. And I can see I still need a little bit of flour there. Put that back down. Okay, and then I'm gonna roll it back out. Okay, and then if you feel like it's sticking, you know, just add some more flour, it's fine. Okay, so that was considered fold number 1. And you just wanna make sure you keep up your count. And you'll see the butter pieces are starting to kind of go with your dough. Okay, fold it again onto itself. Okay, and then now I'm gonna turn it again, and that was just fold number 2. And we're gonna keep going until we've done this probably about 5 to 6 times. We did about 5 turns and our dough is looking really good. All the butter has been incorporated nicely. You're not seeing the big chunks anymore, so we're just gonna wrap this up and put it back in the fridge to rest for another hour. Okay, now we're back. Our dough has rested essentially once all the way through, and now the second time that it rested after we did the folds. So now we are going to cut our dough in half and start rolling it out and actually making our croissants. Okay, we're gonna do just a plain regular croissant, and then we're also gonna do some chocolate that I've cut up, and we're gonna do some ham chocolat with the second half. Okay, so the first half is gonna be our basic croissants. Okay, so this is how you know you did your folds correctly, is when you cut it in half, you can actually see the folds in your dough. So you can see that, and it looks really neat. You can see all the different layers and the lines. That is what you're looking for when you do croissants. Okay, so I'm gonna take half of this, put it on my my counter, and then I'm gonna wrap the other half up and then stick it in the fridge until we're ready for it, because you want to keep your dough cold until it's time to rise. Okay, we don't want to melt our butter. All right, so we're looking to get a rectangle and a pretty big size rectangle. It should be about 10 inches wide and 22 inches long, okay? So that's what we're going for, and we're also trying to make sure it doesn't stick. Okay, so I'm gonna sprinkle just some flour on here, and all right, okay. So now we are going to start rolling it out, okay? Like I said, we're looking for a rectangle. It's about 10 inches wide and 22 inches long. All right, now we've rolled it out and we're gonna form our triangles. So I have a sheet tray on parchment paper. This is where my croissants are gonna go. I'm just gonna kind of square off that end just a little bit. We'll still use this piece. Okay. So we're just making little triangles, little cuts. Between our pan chocolat and our regular croissants is the addition of chocolate and the shape. So instead of these being in the normal like crescent moon shape, you're just rolling them up as little logs essentially. Okay, so just like I did before, I'm just gonna square off this little edge just so I can make more uniform pieces. And then I'm gonna start cutting them. If you want to be very specific and get a ruler, great. My mat actually has measurements on it, so then I can kind of see what I'm doing. And you can really use like any good quality like chocolate. I don't recommend chocolate chips, but any like bar chocolate because of the way it melts. Okay, so you're just gonna put, you know, 1 or 2 pieces of your chocolate. And you're gonna roll it up. Okay, and there we go. That will be your pan chocolat. And I'm just gonna keep going with these. So what's gonna happen next is we are going to let these rise for 1 to 2 hours until they double in size, and then we will bake them in the oven. So go ahead, take a little break, let these rise up, and you wanna make sure you cover them with a piece of plastic wrap so they don't dry out on top. All right, these babies have risen for about 1.5 hours. So now our last step is just to egg wash them, throw them into a 375 degree oven for about 15 or 20 minutes until they bake all the way through. All right, y'all, let's look at these beauties and this finished product. All right, we got our pan chocolat over here, and we have our basic regular croissants over here. All right, y'all, happy baking.